Hi, everybody. I'm here with Kelly Davis, one of our lovely presenters at the Alternatives Conference, which is happening in just a week from today. It will be starting. For those of you who don't know, the Alternatives Conference is a mental health conference led by and for mental health consumers, people with psychiatric disabilities, people identify in different ways. So some identify as consumers, survivors, etc. So Kelly is a works for Mental Health America and has been involved in the peer recovery mental health liberation movement. Not ever sure what
What to call it today.
she has been very involved in that for the past several years. So do you want to say more about kind of yourself and your role in the movement?
Yeah, so my name's Kelly Davis. My role at Mental Health America, I'm the Director of Peer Advocacy Supports and Services. So I work on trying to advance opportunities for peer specialists in the workforce. So we're focusing on like Medicare, commercial insurance, just making sure as many people as would benefit get access to peer support, but also that peers are adequately paid for their time and labor and the value that they bring to the field and to services. I also work on young adult mental health and peer support within that, but not just peer support. I'm just really passionate about the people who are closest and most impacted by problems being the leaders in developing the solutions. So that's kind of an overview of my work at MHA. I'm also co-presenting this workshop with my boss, although he doesn't like when I say that, with Patrick Hendry. He's the VP of our peer advocacy department. And we're talking about opportunities and challenges to expand peer support across health conditions, which is a very long title. But really, a lot of the things that have come up, especially our annual conference was just focused on all chronic health conditions. And something that's come up a lot and we've gotten a lot of phone calls about, and then just being people who aren't just solely identified as mental health consumers, peer support is important to pretty much everybody. And across all health conditions, you run into, they're not the same, they're not necessarily in the same way. They aren't, sometimes are, but aren't necessarily rooted in the same civil rights issues, although again, sometimes they are, and we don't talk about that as much. But really, the difficulty navigating insurance or services, the just lack of emotional support and thinking about, what these different medical conditions do to people emotionally, psychologically, their relationships, all of that stress. We had a presenter at our conference talking about, she had cancer and went through chemo and all of these different surgeries for 4 years. And then one day they brought her into the office and they said, go live your life, you're done. And she was like, my whole life has been this. It's impacting my relationships, my job, my finances, and you're not giving me any support. You're just telling me to leave. So things like that, giving people emotional support, but also in the broader movement to help people self-manage their health conditions too, not just, away from chronic illness care, but, whole health supports around everything. So a lot of the stuff that, I talk about a lot of the stuff that the peer support movement has figured out and has been advocating for really has anticipated what everybody is suddenly figuring out, that you need to support people's health overall, including their spirituality, including their friendships, including their romantic relationships, all of the things that are important to people. You need to help people navigate the complicated world of healthcare that we live in. And you need to help people learn how to help themselves too, and to build communities of support that are also conducive to letting them support themselves in whatever ways that they want to. So this presentation is really I might have done half of it already, but this presentation is really about what we've learned in organizing the formalized, mental health consumer movement through getting state certification, through getting reimbursement with grants, with kind of all of the things that we've been able to organize around this kind of coherent idea of being a behavioral health consumer, how we can build upon that and expand peer support services more broadly, but in this instance across all health conditions, using what we've learned and using the core skills that are pretty much essential, right? It's the shared experience, but what we're doing functionally is the same. It's just learning how to sit with another person and help them in the ways that they want to be helped, but then also help to empower them to do what they want to do. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. And it's really going to be a lot of discussion about what have we learned and what are the barriers to, getting where we want to be. And it's not just, it's important, I think, to talk about too, that many people who identify as part of this community for a number of reasons also have other health conditions that they're dealing with. But I think too, one of the things that I really want to push and I'm really passionate about is like reclaiming the power of the movement as having anticipated this. So it's not just, oh, what can they kind of take from us? It's how can we lead? And how can we say, this is what we've figured out together. And we, the like collective consciousness, I guess, of the movement, because I haven't been here that long. But how can we as a movement or, as people claim the ways that we've contributed and to be looked at as leaders in making everything better. So that's what we're talking about. And it's going to be a lot of discussion around all of these ideas. What are the barriers? Obviously financial barriers is the thing that comes up anytime you want to do anything good for anybody. Unfortunately, money is a big thing. So how do we work around that and really leverage our strengths as a movement to make the world a healthier, more well-placed, that doesn't split the mind from the body, but looks at us as communities and complex individuals.
That's amazing. Yeah, sounds like an incredible workshop. And I think it's really cool because I've always kind of questioned the separation of like mental and physical disability. I think those are kind of seen as like two separate things, and I don't always see them that way. I think anyone with a psychiatric disability or mental health challenge, however they identify, will tell you that has physical symptoms and there's a physical experience, embodied experience that goes along with it. And I think most people with physical disabilities would say that it's hard to face discrimination because of that, or limitations, or have workplace issues, or just to feel to be in pain sometimes. And that can cause emotional suffering. So yeah, I think they go together, and peer support can just be really valuable for everyone. So
sorry, the alarm went off. I'm at my family's house. Alarm just went off on their computer. Yeah, and two, like all of that is, I just had an interaction with somebody yesterday, and it's all of those things, but it's too like you felt this specific pain too. Yeah. Like having a system in place that doesn't put it upon the person to Google a million different support groups and like maybe they have one and then blah blah blah. It's just like, no, it's the expectation that we should have people there who have been there for all of those important reasons. But even just like the core thing that people want to connect with other people who've shared experience. And sometimes even when you can't figure out the self-management, even when you can't figure out the navigation, that is all you need, at least in that moment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, and there's a lot of shame in the world around, like a lot of shaming people for health conditions, whether it's mental health or physical health. It's this idea that you did something to cause it, or you're not trying hard enough to get better. Or just that you're weaker or less than somehow for experiencing that. And so peer support can be such a crucial way to not feel judged and to be able to talk about your experiences without being in danger of having people say those things.
Yeah, and something I talk a lot about when I share my story is just having examples of people you respect and value, identifying with what you share. And like I give the example, obviously, I did not receive peer support from Bruce Springsteen, but I grew up in the Philadelphia area. And like when he talks about dealing with depression, I'm like, what? Like it made me feel better about, even now, even though I'm like, everybody should, your experience is valid, like blah, blah, blah. But like having people who you look up to too, who you're like, oh, I think this person is awesome, and like this thing that I'm ashamed of in myself that I would never tell anybody else to feel bad about, if I can see it in them and they can claim it and they can hold it, it makes me feel better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited for your workshop.
Thanks. Thank
When
you.
will it be again?
What's that?
When will it be? What date?
My workshop is on Wednesday, July 10th at 3:30 to 4:45 p.m.
Awesome. And that's at Catholic University in the Prisbola Center for those of you who don't know.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.